Yanchi Jimbo Zorda Ningmi Zhang Zongder Molam Jimbo Ngabjata Bakar Targam Zanto Shirma to Tomba Tuji Chanla Kip Shamsar Mission Road Sering Shangams Jao Tuji Shanlami Larma Jimmy Bunzo Jala Soran de Gorgia Tobam Por Shinjir Lo.
Homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The supreme, profound and subtle dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Now let us study Bodhicharyavatara together. The reason I am teaching Bodhicharyavatara this time is because it's text for actual practice. About 3 years ago, we all made a shared aspiration to study the 5 great treatises. During this collective study of the 5 great treatises, in the first year, we studied Vinaya. In the second year, Abhidharmakosha. Now we are studying Madhyamaka, which we have almost completed. Pramana, or Buddhist logic, and Abhisamaya-lankara. As many of you know, every Tibetan monastery values deeply the study of the 5 great treatises, and every Dharma student is taught to treasure them greatly. 3 years ago, we made another collective aspiration. Unless major obstacles arose, we vowed to study all 5 great treatises together. At the same time, we have continually emphasized that everyone should also learn some mind training practices. For any kind of knowledge, if it remains only theoretical, academic, or intellectual, then our minds may not truly gain much benefit. Even if you master countless scriptures, knowing every treatise without confusion, still your own mind stream may easily drift away from the spirit of the Dharma. Therefore, I encourage everyone not only to study the profound and vast theories of Buddhism, such as Madhyamaka, Abhidharmakosha, and Buddhist logic. For without such knowledge, merely relying on simple teachings of karma or a few basic practices is hardly enough, since the conceptual thoughts of modern people are so strong, they are not easily tamed. Therefore, we should study the deep teachings thoroughly and in their entirety. This is truly essential. At the same time, we should also study methods of practice. So this year, as we study Buddhist logic, we will also study Bodhicharyavatara. This is the first reason for studying this text. As for the second reason I mentioned not long ago, before our root teacher, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, passed away, he had planned to teach this text. After completing the Uttara Tantra Shastra, he planned to teach the Ocean of Good Explanation, a commentary on Bodhicharyavatara. As many of you remember, when His Holiness announced this in the Dharma Hall that he would teach this text, everyone was filled with joy. I too was deeply moved and delighted. Although I had already received the oral transmissions of this text several times in front of His Holiness, including several of its commentaries and verses, and I received the transmission for the Ocean of Good Explanation from another master. But if such a great bodhisattva as His Holiness would teach this commentary on Shantideva's Bodhicharyavatara by Thogme Zangpo, it would surely awaken bodhicitta within our hearts. That was how everyone truly felt at the time. As we all know, Bodhisattva Thogme Zangpo is widely recognized in Tibetan Buddhism as a noble master whose mind is fully imbued with bodhicitta. Whatever treatise he composed, including the 37 practices of a bodhisattva, as well as this ocean of good explanation, though brief in words, carries great blessing because of the power of his aspiration. Anyone who hears such teachings will surely give rise to bodhicitta in their hearts, a genuine, uncontrived bodhicitta. This is unanimously recognized by Tibetan masters of all lineages. It is also recorded in the texts. His Holiness said many times in class that if one studies this ocean of good explanation throughout, the merit and benefits one will receive are beyond measure. But if does not have that much time, reciting just a few verses in the beginning or the end, again and again with devotion, will still bring forth bodhicitta in one's own heart. Hearing this, we truly rejoice deeply at that time. To receive such a teaching from His Holiness would be indeed very rare across many lifetimes. We always longed for that. I also tried my best to work quickly and translated this commentary into Chinese. But later, as everyone clearly knows, because we beings are lack of enough merit or guru passed into parinirvana, manifesting impermanence for us ordinary beings. Thus, his wish to teach Bodhicharyavatara was not fulfilled. Of course, after so many years have passed, I have thought about teaching this again and again, and deep in my heart, I know clearly that a person like me does not even have a fraction of our Guru's great virtues. I truly fall short of his qualities. Still, thinking that I have received the oral transmission from him, and as his lineage disciple, I want to continue his unfulfilled wish and share this text with you. Although ordinary beings cannot represent or replace noble ones, this is clear to anyone with some wisdom or knows what to accept and reject. But still, whether in terms of the timing or the coming together of fortunate causes and conditions, we, the fourfold community of disciples, will now study this commentary together. This is a good opportunity that we have now, that we of course, when we study this text, our approach will differ a little from before. In the past, the means or traditional method of teaching the Dharma was mainly through giving teachings to disciples directly, face to face. This time, however, I have made a special permission to use modern media and technology to live stream the teachings to audiences outside of this valley. The reason is this. Nowadays, in many big cities, there are also devoted people who are unable to study in monasteries. They have deep faith in Buddhism and are very sincere. Perhaps in their whole life they may not have the chance to attend a Buddhist college or monastery to receive a complete transmission. Such an opportunity may be difficult to obtain in their entire lives. Therefore, this time we have especially allowed for everyone to receive this teaching through modern methods, such as multimedia, the internet, and television. We will also make CDs or audio tapes later. In this way, this teaching will be available to more people and can be shared widely. At the same time, we pray for the blessings of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May everyone who receives this teaching outside Larungar receive the same transmission, blessing, and accomplishment as if they were listening in person. Let's all pray to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, as well as our own Guru, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, in this way. Although we may not see them with our ordinary eyes, we firmly believe that they all watch us from the pure realms with their wisdom eyes. As ordinary beings, although our bodies are humble and lowly, and we are living in this complex and troubled world of samsara, bound by many kinds of afflictive emotions, yet in our hearts, we sincerely wish that all sentient beings may plant the seed of bodhicitta, the mind of supreme enlightenment. Even if they do not fully realize or attain liberation now, may the seed of liberation be planted in their alaya consciousnesses. When causes and conditions mature, may they attain enlightenment. We should study this text with this kind of thought, this kind of aspiration. In this teaching series of the commentary on Bodhicharyavatara, I sincerely hope that everyone who listens, no matter in what way they listen, whether through modern technology or those present here today, if the causes and conditions are right and there are no obstacles, I hope you will receive this teaching fully from beginning to end. Please do not stop halfway. If you listen at first with enthusiasm, but then give up intentionally in the middle, this may not be good for your future study of the Dharma, even in your future lives, as it will become an unfavorable condition. Whatever Dharma we listen to, we should complete it fully. This is very important. That is what I believe. For all who study Bodhicharyavatara this time, I have no other demands, but I hope you will take some exams as you study it, which might be a necessary pressure for you. Those who are intelligent and are performing well in studying and contemplating the Dharma should take some exams as a test of the fruit of your study. Participating in exams should be able to create some good motivational pressures for your study. If some cannot take exams, such as some elderly people, then I hope you will recite some mantras or Buddha names instead every day. If even that is difficult to do, then at least you should receive the complete transmission of this teaching, read the commentary carefully, and refer to some other commentaries of this text as you study. This way, you will be able to understand its meaning fully, and this is very important. As for those receiving the teaching this time, all 4 assemblies of Dharma friends are welcome. There are no restrictions as to who can or cannot listen. For example, some teacher may say, "You're that guru's disciple. You can't listen to my teaching." Some may also exclude those who are not of the same lineage as them from listening to their teachings. I don't have such a kind of restriction for my teaching. Anyone who is interested is welcome to listen. No empowerment is required since this belongs to exoteric dharma. Anyone with faith in Mahayana or interest in learning about the Mahayana altruistic conduct may attend. Everyone with such interest is welcome. In truth, the Dharma is harmonious, all-inclusive and all-embracing. We should not be narrow-minded or randomly impose restrictions on ourselves. It is unnecessary to limit our own space. No matter whose disciple you are, of which monastery you belong, you all are welcome to listen. Perhaps during listening, you will find some benefit for your mind streams. Even a small benefit is enough and is my true intention. Even if there is no benefit at all, I can assure you it brings no harm. Unlike worldly advertisements or propaganda that may cause harm, this teaching will never harm your body or your mind. This is absolutely certain. So everyone may join this course regardless of which school or lineage you belong to, whether you study Pure Land, Chan or Huayan school, or belong to any school within Tibetan Buddhism. All are welcome to listen as long as you are interested. This is not because I'm unusually generous. I am not granting something new or unprecedented. It is because Bodhicharyavatara itself has always been meant for all sentient beings without exception. Its scope of listeners is vast. This time while studying, I think we should focus on one thing: develop genuine bodhicitta and deepen our understanding of Mahayana. May this not remain only in words. Let it arise truly in the heart of each one of you. I encourage you to make sincere effort in this way. Also, I hope each of you will study this teaching diligently. About 6 or 7 years ago, our teacher, Choje Yijin Norbu Jigme Funsok, stressed the importance of this text during class. When he taught, he said that for all the communities of disciples in our academy, if we aspire to uphold pure pratimoksha vows and generate renunciation, we should study the Flower Garland commentary. As for the Mahayana teachings of Bodhicitta, they are all summarized in Bodhicharyavatara. Therefore, everyone must study it well. To engage in Vajrayana practices, we should first study the related teachings of the great master Longchenpa. This was his key instruction. So this time, as I teach this text on the essential teachings of Mahayana, I hope you will try to understand the meaning. During the process of listening, many of you present here already know how to listen properly. You already follow an excellent way of receiving the Dharma, and the way I teach should also be appropriate. Yet for others, such as those who listen through the internet or television, please also receive the teaching with proper attitudes and conduct. Modern technology has both advantages and disadvantages. Whether young or middle-aged, we all use technological or smart devices in our daily lives. They are beneficial and convenient for many worldly tasks, but they can also become causes of distraction if not used properly. Some even bring negative influences, especially when we use them to browse unhealthy contents. Anyone with education and some wisdom knows this. From a worldly perspective, regarding certain modern devices such as computers or books that may have negative effects on one's mind stream, thoughtful people often try to avoid using them much, not to mention monks and genuine practitioners. So in future, when we use such devices, we should be mindful and cautious. The Buddha also said in the sutras that for wise people, convenient methods become a cause for liberation, but for those without wisdom, the same means may become a cause for bondage. The Buddha reminded us of this truth. In this age of degeneration, science and technology have developed rapidly. For some people, to give a simple example, let us speak with a simple example of watching TV. Since TV has become a convenient way for people to receive information, some people use it as a learning tool for them to listen to any master's Dharma teachings. Since through it, the teachings of the Dharma can spread to every corner of the world. This certainly benefits many people in this life and future lives. However, there are others who become lost every day in endless information of distraction on TV. It is truly a pity and regrettable to see. As Buddhist practitioners, we should be careful when using modern devices like this. We must guide our minds with awareness and mindfulness to avoid distraction before we begin to use them. Otherwise, we may start out with a good intention, intending to study or spread the Dharma, but in the end we may fall into the abyss of addiction to various distractions. We may lose control and cannot resist the temptation of various information. So I hope you will observe the state of your own mind carefully and use such tools with mindfulness and awareness. This is important. Now, let's begin today's actual teaching. We will begin with an introduction to Bodhicharyavatara. I will share briefly about this great text in terms of how it spread and flourished in India, the Tibetan regions, and the Han region of China, and how the great masters of the past regarded it. This is what I will explain briefly at the beginning. First, in India, Khenpo Kumpal's commentary on the Bodhicharyavatara notes that in India there should be about 108 commentaries on this text. From this, we can clearly see how much respect for and emphasis on Indian masters used to give this treatise. We can understand this with the example of the Diamond Sutra. This sutra is highly regarded in Han Buddhism. Yet, how many commentaries on the Diamond Sutra are there up to now? You can easily find this through the internet. Of course, I am not saying people in our academy are allowed to use the internet, except for those entrusted to do volunteer work. No one is allowed to use the internet. This is the academy's discipline. For beginners of the Dharma, using the internet might not bring real benefit. Here, you can listen to the Dharma in person, which is very convenient, so there is no need to use it. Others can search online if you are interested. What I mentioned just now about how many commentaries exist on the Diamond Sutra. In Han Buddhism, people have always valued the Diamond Sutra deeply. Yet, there are not 108 commentaries, I suppose. Everyone knows this. With its more than 100 commentaries, we can see clearly how widely and highly regarded this text was in India. At that time, India had strict restrictions on making a commentary or treatise public. Only when a treatise was examined by great masters and scholars, and only when they all agreed that it was of high quality, that it was allowed to be copied and distributed. Thus, in India, the Bodhicharyavatara was highly revered. Of the Indian commentaries, there are about 8 texts that have been translated into Tibetan. Some scholars believe that there are 10 books. Famous examples include the commentaries by Prajnacaramati and the master Nagpawa. Nagpawa is sometimes called the Black Commentator. Other commentaries that have been translated into Tibetan include commentaries of masters such as Kalyanadeva and Dharmakirti of Suvarnadvipa, among others. There were several commentaries with no author's name. The names of the authors are unknown. In this commentary, Ocean of Good Explanation, the author quoted from the works of some of the most important Indian masters, including Pandita Universal Illumination, Shantideva, and others. All the commentaries of the Bodhicharyavatara composed by Indian masters consists of 2 volumes in the Buddhist canon. Out of the more than 100, only 8 or 9 were translated into Tibetan. How does this text spread within Tibetan Buddhism? You should all be aware of the different schools of Tibetan Buddhism, Gelug, Kagyu, Sakya, Nyingma, and so forth. Every monastery within all these schools recognizes and studies this treatise. It is regarded as a text that everyone must learn. In the biography of Patrul Rinpoche, it is said that Gelug monastery study it using Gyaltsab Je's commentary. That is their main reference. Kagyu monasteries rely on a master known as Pawo Tsuklak Trengwa. He composed a very extensive commentary on this text. As for the Sakya school, their lineage disciples study with the commentary written by Sakya Sonam Tsemo, one of the 5 Sakya patriarchs. In the Nyingma tradition, before Patrul Rinpoche was born, the main reference used was Ocean of Good Explanation, the treatise composed by Bodhisattva Togme Zangpo. After Patrul Rinpoche appeared, some Nyingma monasteries adopted commentaries by Khenpo Kunpal and by Khenpo Kunzang Chodrak. Today, in Tibetan Buddhism overall, there are more than 20 well-known commentaries still preserved. In particular, within the Kadampa tradition, the Bodhicharyavatara is one of the 6 Kadam treatises to be studied. Within the Tibetan Buddhist canon, there are numerous texts. Both in the Kangyur and the Tengyur, For example, the Kangyur contains 103 volumes, and the Tengyur contains over 250 volumes, with countless scriptures and commentaries, plus works written by Tibetan masters. Each lineage has its own great scholars and authors. Some composed 100 texts, some 50, some 40, some 30. Among all these works, every school recognizes one essential treatise, the one that every monastery studies, that is this Bodhicharyavatara. So I hope you will contemplate the importance of this text carefully. What is the role of this treatise in Buddhist studies? What is its position, its influence, and its true value? With so many great masters in India and the Tibetan regions, we could never have shortage of sutras or treatises to study. Yet among all sutras, is there one sutra that everyone must study? Likewise, among all treatises, is there one that everyone must study? This is the only one required to study in every tradition. Nearly all Tibetan Buddhist masters, whatever their school or title, would cite scriptural citations from this text when writing Mahayana treatises. Roughly 3% of this text is quoted in the Great Exposition of the Stages of the Path. A considerable portion of it is also used in the Great Chariot, a commentary on Find Rest in the Nature of Mind, as does the Words of My Perfect Teacher. It's also cited by masters of Kagyu, Kadam, Jonang, etc. All the great masters, as you can see, when writing a commentary, always quotes from the Bodhicharyavatara. Tibetan masters never lacked text to reference. They could find every scripture imaginable. Among world traditions, Tibetan Buddhism is uniquely rich in scriptures. Nowhere else is there such a treasury of Buddhist heritage. Few places hold such vast spiritual and cultural wealth. Anyway, I think regarding this text, please do not think, I can hear this treatise anywhere. Such a treatise seems to exist in any sect around the world. To think that way would be a mistake. Vairotsana was a direct disciple of Guru Padmasambhava. Some time ago, it was found in the Lhasa Museum. Because it is extremely old, countless years have passed, many of its pages have stuck together. Due to history and other causes, the text has never been made public. Professional experts from Western and Southeast Asian countries are now working to restore it through various means. Whether it can truly be restored remains difficult to say. Many Tibetan masters are paying close attention to this matter. As we know, those with wisdom care most about wisdom. Those without wisdom care most about food and clothing. They worry mostly about comfort and shelter, but wise people pay little attention to such things. They do not concern themselves much with comfort. Anyway, we should not miss this chance to study this treatise. Please cherish this opportunity. I am not promoting myself or praising Tibetan Buddhism in particular. If no one listens, it brings me neither gain nor loss. The number of listeners is not important, but for each of you, you should know what is a true wish-fulfilling jewel and what is only an imitation jewel. Those with right understanding will know the difference. So far, I have briefly explained how the Bodhicharyavatara has been regarded in the Tibetan regions. Now let us look at Han Buddhism. Originally, around the Tang dynasty, Buddhism was flourishing in the Han regions. But the Bodhicharyavatara had not yet been translated. Only later in the Song dynasty, around the second year of the Yongxi era, about 985 CE, a translator from the northern India called Devasantika rendered it into Chinese. He titled his translation Sutra on Bodhisattva Conduct, but since its translation throughout the Song, Yuan, Ming, and Qing dynasties up to now, it was not spread widely. This version has been considered difficult to understand because of its language. Its wording is elegant and profound, but it has never become widely known. For nearly 1,000 years, it still has not been widely propagated. Looking at the overall situation, his translation then was very precise and accurate. That translator, Devasantika, was originally from the region of Kashmir. At that time, there were three great translators, Devasantika, Dhanapala, and Dharmadeva. During that period, Buddhism was flourishing in the Han region of China. Translation institutes were established, monasteries devoted to rendering scriptures. They brought Sanskrit manuscripts from India to China and then began the work of translation. Each translation team had roles such as chief translator, editor, and verifier. There were around 8 or 9 different positions. The chief translator explained the meaning of the Sanskrit text, while the verifier oversaw the written form. Some polished the language, some checked the meaning. Those translation institutes were excellent, but perhaps because beings lacked sufficient merit, or for many other reasons, the text never spread broadly in Han Buddhism. In recent years, as I mentioned before, the commentary by Gyaltsab Je was translated by Venerable Longlian, and Venerable Rusha from Taiwan went to India to seek the transmission of this treatise. After many years of dedicated effort, she carefully translated the root verses of the Bodhicharyavatara. She also wrote simple explanations of its meaning and discussed its connection with the Compendium of Training and Compendium of Scriptures. She explored those relations deeply. In this field, she produced many writings. Since Venerable Rushi's works within Han Buddhism, a few temples and practitioners have begun to study this text. From what I see today, the study of the Bodhicharyavatara in Han Buddhism is still insufficient. I hope in the future, monasteries, lay Buddhist communities, and Dharma centers in the Han region and the wider world will actively study this treatise. Everyone should take initiative to learn it. Why should we study it? Please reflect for yourselves. Among India's many great masters, see how they revered this scripture. Within Tibetan Buddhism, countless masters like stars in the sky showed the same respect for this text. I think Han Buddhist teachers and devoted followers should likewise value it highly. Some who know little of Buddhism might think, this treatise belongs to Tibetan Buddhism, so I will not study it. Thinking like that only shows that strong attachment has clouded your wisdom. Why? Because the Bodhicharyavatara does not belong only to Tibetan Buddhism. If you reject all Dharma coming through Tibetan lineages, then do you accept the Dharma that came from India? If not, you must also reject everything taught by Shakyamuni Buddha. If you do accept it, then why not study such an excellent treatise? Therefore, I want to take this opportunity to encourage all Buddhist communities, every monastery and Buddhist college included, will study this carefully. Why? Because within this single text, the essence of all Mahayana sutras and treatises are expressed in very clear and simple language. After studying the Bodhicharyavatara, many practitioners find their temperaments and minds transformed. Their minds become peaceful and disciplined. For this point, I think many practitioners will realize this fully after true study. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's often the saying, this person seems to lack altruistic mind. Their behavior isn't very gentle. They should study this text. Such advice is common. Of course, a small person like me, it may sound bold to declare to expound this text and call for all monastics of the 10 directions to study this text. Yet in my heart, I sincerely wish that people today and in generations to come will gain benefit from it. So I join my palms and pray to all teachers, especially the great masters of Han Buddhism and all capable and devout Buddhists, that they will take the Bodhicharyavatara as a manual of life practice, regard it as an essential teaching for one's whole life, and at the same time try to encourage others also to study this text. When our Guru was alive, he also said and encouraged that the Sangha members in our academy should study this text every year. I think those of us present shouldn't think, I've heard it before, or I can just read the commentary. If it were that simple, why did the great Indian Panditas write more than 100 commentaries on it? Recently, I heard some people say, I already read the notes, I don't need to listen. After hearing that, I felt such words only expose their ignorance. Because in Tibetan Buddhism, so many masters study, discuss, and debate on topics in this text, they have written a great number of commentaries. In India as well, masters composed many treatises on it. If this text were truly simple, did those great masters have nothing else to do? So I urge everyone not to display such ignorance outwardly before others. It's unwise to do so before others or before an audience. That is not a very admirable performance. Today, I first gave a brief introduction to you. It was about why we need to study this important text. From my own perspective, I think this treatise is not an ordinary one, it's an extraordinary text. Though it belongs to the sutra path, it's essential for us to arouse bodhicitta in us. No matter how loudly we chant the Buddha's name, how diligently we meditate each day, how vast our dharma activities may be, or whatever charities or projects we engage in, none of these has meaning without genuine bodhicitta. If everything is driven by self-interest, centered on self-concern, although it still brings some merit, but can they become causes for liberation? Each of us should carefully think about it and examine our own minds. If our deeds cannot truly become causes of liberation without bodhicitta, why not study such a wonderful treatise? Think about this seriously. Now, I would like to speak briefly about its author, the Bodhisattva Shantideva. 7 marvelous biographies of him are often mentioned. This time I will give you a brief introduction. Every day when we have spare moments, I will share more detailed stories. Through the deeds of Shantideva, by hearing these stories, we can develop genuine faith in the author himself. When we truly generate faith in these holy beings, bodhicitta in our own hearts can arise more easily. So, let us begin the brief introduction to the author Shantideva. His exact time of birth is debated. Some differences exist among various accounts. Buton's History of Buddhism by Buton Rinchen Drup also records his life. Taranatha's History of Buddhism in India mentions it too. Part of it is found there. Modern works such as An Introduction to Buddhist Thought also refer to him. You can also find some records of him preserved in other treatises, yet their descriptions of his date of birth differ slightly. There are slight variations regarding his birth. There's a book called Connected with Tibet. In this book, it's written, Shantideva was born in 687 CE and passed away in 763 CE. That is how it is recorded there. Another scholar wrote in his book as follows: Shantideva was born around 650 CE and passed away around 750 CE. According to this, he may have lived for about 100 years. In any case, the evidence agrees that he lived around the middle of the 7th century. Some think it was the middle of the 8th century, roughly during that period that he was born. For an introduction to Shantideva, we can rely on available sources. One can read history or biographies to know this, although it may not matter that much for us practitioners, even if these dates and details are uncertain. However, we should combine our study and practice without focusing only on one aspect. Only exploring outer knowledge constantly, I think it's not very good. Then only practice as primary, not caring about any theoretical study is also not good. For example, if we read a book without knowing its societal or historical background or the author's identity, life and achievement, then we may find it hard to develop confidence in that author, and we naturally find it hard to develop confidence in the work that we study. So today let us simply introduce the exceptional qualities of Shantideva. There are 7 stories. I'll briefly introduce the first one. Shantideva was born as a prince in a palace. He was the son of King Kalyanavarnam, and his given name was Shantivarnam. From childhood, he was unlike other children, because according to many texts, in his past lives he had practiced emptiness and Mahayana teachings. For that reason, even as a child, he had deep devotion to the Dharma and the 3 jewels. He would continually make offerings to the 3 jewels and to Brahmins and monks. Thus, he seemed to have virtuous roots conducive toward liberation. He showed faith in the Dharma that leads beyond samsara. Moreover, although born as a prince, toward people around him in the royal palace, such as ministers, relatives, and friends, he always treated them with great love and compassion. He especially felt deep sympathy for the sick, the poor, and all suffering beings. Great compassion always arose in him, and he constantly gave them aid and protection. Around the age of 6 or 7, he began his studies. Following Indian custom, he studied various sciences, arts, and crafts. He mastered them all completely. The king was delighted, and all the ministers rejoiced at his excellence. When he grew up, they prepared for his coronation to make him the next king. According to Indian tradition, they arranged an enthronement ceremony. It was to grant him the empowerment of kingship. As they made the preparations the very night before the ceremony, the prince Shantideva, then known as Shantivarnam, had a dream. In his dream, In his dream, he saw Manjushri appeared on the throne, prepared for his enthronement ceremony. Manjushri spoke to him, "May son, this is my seat, and I am your root teacher." "Son, remember this well. You and I should not sit on the same throne." Shantideva interpreted the dream as an indication from Manjushri that it is no use to become king. Some texts say the vision appeared as Tara, for example, the history of Buddhism in India. In a Tibetan commentary that I find, it says that the deity appeared was Vajrayogini. So some also say it was Vajrayogini who talked to him in his dream. Whether it was Tara or Vajrayogini, she bathed Shantideva using warm water. Some say boiling water, probably warm water. Boiling water would have been unbearably hot. As the warm water was poured, his body felt intense heat. It was very hard for him to bear. Then the yogini said to him, "This is not truly hard to bear. When you inherit the throne tomorrow and receive royal empowerment, in your next life, that water will become water of hell. That water will be even more painful." "How will you tolerate it then?" she asked, and added, "If you truly wish to avoid that, do not take the throne. Abandon worldly concerns and renounce the crown. Go east to a place called Bengal. You go to this Bengal place to study. By going there, you will meet Manjushri in person." Having received this prophecy, he awoke the next morning, still reflecting on the dream. He realized that to take the throne would not be right. So he mounted a swift horse and rode toward the east. This was how he departed the palace and fled the kingdom, which was just like that of Shakyamuni Buddha. He left his father's palace exactly as Prince Siddhartha had done. He reached the eastern kingdom called Bengal. Some historical accounts say he traveled for 21 days without food or water, heading east. Other versions are less detailed, but in any case, he traveled for many days. When he arrived there, he entered a forest near Bengal. In that forest, he happened to meet a beautiful woman. He saw her and dismounted from his horse. He asked her kindly, "Could you hold this horse for a while?" "Just for a short moment." "I see a spring nearby. I want to drink some water," he said, "for it has been a long time since I last ate or drank." The young woman held the horse and watched him quietly. When he was about to drink, she said, "Do not drink this water. It is ordinary water. If you are truly thirsty, drink this nectar instead." She was holding a small amount of nectar. After he drank the nectar, his fatigue disappeared completely and his energy was restored. So he asked the young woman, "Where have you come from?" She replied, "I come from the forest of Bengal. In that forest lives a my guru who is endowed with every noble quality. My teacher often abides in the samadhi of Manjushri Vajra." Hearing this name, Shantideva was thrilled, like a poor man finding a wish-fulfilling jewel. He felt immense joy. He begged her, "Please take me to meet this master. I wish to pay him respect." The woman agreed and guided him there. They arrived where a majestic teacher stayed, radiant like 100,000 suns shining on Mount Sumeru. His presence was awe-inspiring. His body, speech, and mind were serene and gentle. Such a noble master, an extraordinary being, lived there. Seeing him, the prince felt profound faith. He dismounted from his horse and offered the horse and all his ornaments to the master. Shantideva requested to be accepted as a disciple. The teacher accepted him compassionately and transmitted to him the Manjushri Vajra meditation. After receiving this transmission, he meditated beside his teacher for 12 years. Later, he directly beheld Manjushri and attained great realization. That is roughly one story of Shantideva. For today, I will stop here. Tomorrow, we will continue with the verses and also speak further about Master Shantideva. We will also mention Bodhisattva Togme Zangpo's life. This time we should sincerely study this commentary. Usually people are very diligent in the beginning. From my 20 years of teaching experience, most students start with strong enthusiasm. If you are not extremely diligent at first, that is fine, but you must be diligent through to the end. This is our way. At first, many register for study, many learn eagerly, even skipping meals. Their faith is strong, yet true diligence must continue through the beginning, middle, and end. That is the mark of a genuine practitioner. All right, we will stop here for today.
Chupun Tsulen Chua Chua Xiao
Bandar Gara Badma Sodargye Bandar Gara Badma Sodargye Bandar Gara Badma Sodargye